Let's talk about proportions. Again, in a previous video, we've talked about ratios. A ratio, remember, is just a comparison of two numbers. So, such as in the upper right box here, we have a ratio of A to B. We also have a ratio of C to D. Often ratios are written as fractions. Well, when you compare two ratios, when you set two ratios equal to each other, right, an equation containing two ratios is what we call a proportion. So again, now we're saying A is to B as C is to D. Again, they're going to be equivalent ratios. Right? So let's go down here to the bottom. Let's work out a couple of proportions and we'll see sort of how they work. So again, first thing we need to do is set up our proportion. So we'll just follow what the verbal phrase here says. If 5 is to 7, well, one thing I can do is just say 5 divided by 7 then. And 5 is to 7 as, sort of like an is, we think equal sign. Well, P is to 49. Well, now think about the order there. 5 was listed first, right? 5 is to 7. This time P is listed first as P is to 49. So sort of 5 and P are sort of relatable there. I'm going to put both 5 and P on the top of my fractions. And now 5 is to 7, well, just like P is to 49. 49 is very relatable to that 7, right? So I'm going to put that 49 on the bottom. Now, you might be able to just think your way through there if you're taking a good look at your fractions. 7 times 7 would have gotten us to 49, right? To cross that equal sign, it's kind of like we took the bottom times 7. Well, we should also probably take the top times 7. But now I'm going to propose a little different way to look at that, a little different way to solve. When we're talking about solving equations, right, and that's really what this is, it's just a sort of messy looking equation. What we want to do is find a way to get P, right, that proportion, that P value all by itself, that variable. Well, if P is being divided by 49, the simple thing to think is then let's just multiply by 49. Right? Divide by 49 times 49. Those two things, right, those two numbers will end up canceling. And on the right side, I multiplied by 49. Well, that just means on the left side, I also need to multiply by 49. And in that case, I'm going to think about 49 being a fraction so that I can multiply the top and I can divide the bottom, right? So I can take 49 times 5, which if you do quickly on your calculator or in your head, that's 245. Or, again, it's divided by 7, right? And again, notice my 49's on the right canceled. So we're down to just P. Well, instead of multiplying first, because dividing 245 by 7 doesn't sound like a lot of fun, what I can actually do is cancel a little bit here, right? If I take advantage of, there's a 7 here, and there's a 7 in my 49. 7 divides into 7 7 times, and that leaves me with 7 times 5 would be 35. And we have our answer then, that P equals 35. Which again makes sense. We thought about that fraction up top. 7 times 7 would have been 49. Well, 7 times 5 would have been that P value then, right? So it kind of makes sense there. Let's try the one on the right here, and then we'll show you where we can actually use this stuff a little bit. So 4 is to 12. So same idea. 4 is to 12 as n is to 3. If we multiply by that 3 on both sides, multiply by 3 on both sides, again, basically those two 3's will cancel. We'll get our n value. And then, notice on the left, again, anytime you're multiplying by a fraction, just think you're multiplying by the top. That just made 12 over 12, and n equals 1, right? Which makes sense. 4/12, if you think about it, take that 4 out of top and bottom, really is the same thing as 1/3. Now, when you're talking about proportions and writing proportions, there are a couple of different ways you can do that. Excuse me. So over here at the left, we're just kind of explaining that, again, you can sort of flip these proportions around a little bit. Think about the fact that if A is to B and C is to D, well, up here in the upper left, well, couldn't we just flip those over? If A is to B and I flip it over, I call it B is to A. Well, doesn't it sort of just make sense I can flip over the other side as well? If C is to D then D is to C. B is still related to D on the bottom. Now it's related to D on the top, right? A and C on the top, A and C on the bottom. So again, if this was 2/3 equals 4/6, which we know is a true statement, well, in that case, if I flip the left side over, right? 3 over 2 or being 1.5, I just have to flip over the right side. So I would say 6 is to 4, still equal to 1.5. In that same case, down here at the bottom, right, this one works as well. A is to B is C is to D. Well, then A is to C. Remember how we were relating A and C on the top? Well, what if I relate them within one fraction, right? Almost like I sort of divided that C down to the bottom here, kind of like taking this B that's being divided and multiplying it over to the other side on the top, right? So now it's over here. So 2/3 is to 4/6. Well, what if I switch, right, that 3 and that 4? So we took that 4 down here and we put the 3 up here. So now we're saying, well, they were 2/3 equals 4/6. Well, that was 2/3 equals 2/3, right? Well, now we're saying 1/2, right? 2/4 is equal to 3/6, still 1/2, right? So again, that also works. It just helps you when you're setting up these proportions, realize you can set them up in multiple ways. Now on the right side here, a printer can print 54 color pages in 3 minutes. That sounds like a ratio. If we can print 54 color pages, right, in 3 minutes, right, we're sort of like talking about pages per minute, right? Well, how many color pages? Well, let's call that X, right? How many color pages, X, can we print in 13 minutes? Again, still pages per minute, right? Talking about pages on the top, we're talking about minutes on the bottom. We're relating those ratios. And this is a great time again. We can take that 13 over here, multiply on the right, multiply on the left. We'll cancel that 13 on the right, and we'll end up with X equal to, and again, here we just need to do some math here, some arithmetic. Don't forget we're multiplying the top by 13, and we're also dividing by 3, right? Well, the nice part I noticed, 3 goes into 54 18 times. So really this is 13, right, times 18, because that extra 3 we would have had there would have canceled away, right? So now all I need to do is figure out what's 13 times 18, right? So, and I believe that's 184, though you may want to check me on the calculator. And now remember what we were trying to find here. X, remember, was equal to that number of pages, right? So that's 184. Oops, that's not going to be 184. That's really low. 18 times 10 alone is 180, right? So let's add on to 180. 3 times 18 would be 54. So how about 234? Okay. That sounds just a little bit more reasonable. 234 pages. Again, you may want to check me on the calculator on that one. I should probably have one in hand as well. It seems like I'm making a couple mistakes there. Well, if you have any questions, make sure you talk to your teacher. Otherwise, good luck solving your proportions and have a great day.